Jason, welcome to Low Bow Spark. This is literally meant to be inspirational and a story. It's your story to tell how you want to tell it. And I have heard that I won't say suffer from autism, but you have been diagnosed with autism, correct?
Yes, I was
Th-
diagnosed when I was 26. Um, and yeah, it's interesting. I was actually diagnosed as Asperger's back before they had come up
Really?
with the spectrum.
Right.
You
Oh
know,
God, I
um,
love how you did that. Yeah.
yeah. And it the way that was originally explained to me was not what I would how I would explain it, what I would explain it if it were still considered a thing.
Right.
Um, I mean, even the fact that how many years ago is it now? Almost 6 years ago now, I got in a car accident, and my wife suffered a brain injury that she's recovered from, and
Wow.
I feel like my brain has recovered at this point, and like my physical body could use a few massages, maybe some chiropractic adjustments,
Right.
but my sensitivities on some levels have never recovered. Like
Interesting.
I worked as a server and a bartender for years.
Right.
And before that car accident, it really didn't get to me most nights. People's attitudes got to me more than the sound and the noise and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Um, but since that car accident, like there's just some places I can't be in. Like before that, I never understood the autistic kid that melted down at the grocery store.
Right.
Like I was always like, how do you put me and that kid in the same box, on the same spectrum?
Right. Right.
And I understand it. I've read all the stuff, but it's still like, experiential wise,
Absolutely.
but then like after the car accident, like literally, and then when my wife was pregnant the first time, she had the same kind of experience where she went in places and just like could not be there because of the sensory input. And
Yes.
she was like, and she's diagnosed bipolar. And she was like, we kind of sat there theorizing. We are like, maybe bipolar plus pregnancy hormones equals autistic sensitivity level. Like,
Well, so you obviously know your shit, man. You know what you're talking about.
yeah, I actually have a BA in psychology as well.
Oh, did not know that. Thanks, guy.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But I'm ADHD is all get out. But the thing is, the spectrum thing. I want to go back to that.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, it's you have it. You might suffer from it in different ways, but it's not this like you're more ADHD or more autistic or more like I don't see that
Yeah, I
as
agree with you very much on that, especially
it,
because, and that goes into the idea that a lot of people get confused thinking that just kids are like this, and then as you
right.
get older, like you grow out of it.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
like in fact, some of it, like I've pointed to, gets harder or more difficult to manage or worse as you
Absolutely.
get older, especially in jobs and different settings. Like there's been times as a teacher where, I just honestly can barely take another minute of listening to anybody and I need to, get 10 minutes of quiet. And like that's just not available, you
Right.
know.
Right.
And
The world isn't built for neurodivergent people. And
No, and,
it,
and and like that's the crazy thing is like I see neurodivergence as if you're trying to fit yourself into the normal box, it's going to be very difficult. It's not impossible,
right.
but you have to find the right box and it's like a
Yeah.
hermit crab. You have to find the right shell
Right.
and find a way to live in it.
Yeah.
Um, but otherwise, it's like neurodivergence to me is like those the people that truly are that way that are trying doing their best to thrive, like they like the world really isn't built for them, and you have to find what it is that you do that that works.
Right. Oh my God. Okay. That's perfect. I'm getting
Like, I love being a
free
teacher, but if
therapy
they
right
really
now.
wanted me to do this for another 20 years, like, I needed to look a certain way, be a certain way,
No.
and I could really kick ass at it. But if you want me to keep doing it the way that I've been doing it, like, at some point I'm going to get burnt out. I'm not going to be doing it very well,
Yeah.
those sorts of things.
It's interesting you say that, though. I want to go back to when you said finding something right that works for you. That is like my biggest proponent statement ever
Yeah,
is
neurodiversity can be a superpower,
oh
but
my
you have to
God.
have it nurtured
Yes. Okay.
properly.
I love you.
Like,
I love you
I,
automatically.
I've seen my wife create miracles out of nothing.
Yep.
I've seen her manage 100 things at once because she's in the right place, organized the right way. She's got things set up for her, and she is just clicking right along.
Yeah.
I understand artists and musicians that once they get themselves in a certain flow can just like start kicking out albums or paintings over and over and over again because they
It's
finally got themselves.
creativity.
Yeah, they
It's
finally just got it all set up right and organized right and in a way that really works for them.
right.
And I'm like the same way at this point in my life. I've never felt more solid on who I am and what I'm looking for. And I feel like if somehow I just had, it's that whole thing. It was like, if I had $1 million, I'm like, no, man, if I had $1 million, like, I would start working on the next year and a half, and it would look exactly like I plan on it looking. Like, it would possibly
Oh
turn
my
out better,
gosh. Yes,
because,
Jason.
like, autism is a processing thing. I get that at this point, but like, this world moves at 1,000,000 miles a minute. Like, sometimes it takes me 40 fucking years to process something.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and now I
That's
get it.
okay.
And people are looking at me like going, why hadn't you gotten this until now, man? I'm like, I get it now, and I think I get it better than most of you now.
Well, see, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing is once you get it, it might take us longer, but once you get it, you blow past everyone that
Yeah.
at that moment.
Yeah.
Like you know more, you are better. Like, okay, oh my God, I love this so much. This you are this is awesome. So you have a degree in psychology. Is that
Yeah.
how?
Yeah. You got to figure yourself out if you're going to help anybody else.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you. You're the host now. I'm getting a free therapy session at this point. Okay. I feel like I'm going to lie down on the couch here and let you just talk because it's fascinating. And my thing is, so with ADHD, it's a dysregulation, or to me, it's an emotional dysregulation, which means like you're high, low, high, low. That can be easily confused with bipolar, I think. It,
I actually think they're kind of one and the same. Like,
right.
I have trouble
Exactly.
parsing them apart,
It,
because my wife is diagnosed with both.
okay.
And the more I learn about both of them, the more anybody that tells me they're exactly one, the more I see the other stuff in them.
Right.
And
Yes.
the more, and managing both of them is almost the same thing.
Exactly.
And that's why I believe in the whole, like, like, I've read theories on ADHD where they're like, there's focus ADHD and there's attention ADHD. And then I'm like, and then like, there's the one almond guy, he's got like 20 something types of ADHD from all his brain scans, so it's like,
I
I definitely, and then there's like, in our society these days, there's a learned ADHD. Like,
right.
from, like, think about it, like, before we did the podcasts and streaming shows, like, everything was commercials that were like 4 to 7 minutes apart. The commercials were 3 to 4 minutes long. All those commercials were 15 to 30 seconds. Like, our attention's been getting chopped up by media
Yep.
into 15-second to 3-minute segments since we were kids. Like, I was substitute teaching at this school one day years ago, and these kids just wanted to listen to music. So I started going for it with them. And I was like, all right, you put on a song, I'll put on a song.
Yeah.
So they put on this song and I suffered through it, dear God. And then I put on this song and the kid looks at it and goes, this song's 9.5 minutes long. And I was like, well, of course it is. It's good music. Like, why do I want it to be over in 3 minutes? Like, that's right when a good song might get going.
Thank you.
I was like, and I put on a short one for you guys. If I was listening, this might be a 30-minute version.
What's so funny about that is, so like, I think that's the autistic side is more the 9 minute song. The ADHD side is we're going to replay the first minute over and over and over again until it
You
makes it
guys did the
9 minutes.
DJ set with the 2 minute songs.
Right,
Just
right. Yeah,
2 minute song, switch, 2 minute song, switch, 2 minute song, switch.
exactly. So, okay, I want to switch uh, trajectory here a little bit because
Yeah,
you're obviously brilliant on the knowledge of these things. And I usually only ask one question, and that's what is your journey with mental health? I literally, that is my question. And then I ask something at the end. But for me, it's we need to take advantage of how smart you are and how much you know. And
thank you.
that literally, you are brilliant. You can tell that instantly. And so I want to ask, how has autism played a role for the better in your life?
Wow. I'm not gonna say I don't ever think about this, but probably not something I've tried to put into words in quite a while. I notice things that other people don't.
There we go. Go ahead.
And I could apply that to every area of my life, you know. As a teacher, I noticed, that that kid really isn't crazy. He
Right.
may act silly, but he's really just interpreting his reality and finding an interesting way to express himself that, most of the other kids in the room don't seem to quite understand. Or that kid isn't as angry as everybody thinks. He just lives a different life than most people can understand without getting into all the details.
Yeah.
And, just taking a few minutes with them every now and then helps him to self regulate. I can take it with the idea of my wife, the fact that to a lot of people, she might just be another woman from Tallahassee that went to Florida
Right.
State and taught school for a few years and is now a stay-at-home mom until she can find what she's doing next in this world.
Yeah.
Um, but
So you
I
notice
see
things.
one
You
of the
notice
most
things.
incredible people that I've ever met, and somebody who is just starting to, you know, bud and blossom into the amazing life that they are going to live, and doing incredible things raising our children. She came up with a all natural, basically. I mean, there's still some things people could be allergic to, but basically, I'm a celiac and lactose intolerant, and I have several other food allergies and issues, and we don't eat a lot of processed food.
Right.
And because of that, you can't really test kids for some of that kind of stuff until they're older. So she came up with a breast milk alternative by
No shit.
using part of her psychopharmacology knowledge and uh, forgot how she analyzed human breast milk to get like all the nutrient components, and then started looking at other foods, and it's like a combination of 7 things you can just buy from the grocery store
Wow.
that's that we combine. It's coconut milk, almond milk we make ourselves, cacao butter, flax oil, hemp seeds, buckwheat groats, and dates in a certain ratio.
So she's brilliant too.
Yeah,
Like, okay,
that's what I'm
y'all.
saying. But like I noticed her when like when most people just saw a woman that was in a rough place in her life.
Right.
And and like you with our kids, like, I take my living room looks like a preschool right now because that's
Right.
what it needs to look like.
Yeah.
Like I live in a 650 square foot, house that we rent, and it's because Jesus Christ, if they paid teachers like they paid secretaries, we'd at least make $65,000 a year, not 45,000.
Oh, Jesus
Um,
Christ. Are you kidding me?
they
Teachers
paid me
make.
what I was worth. Might be enough to actually support my family.
Okay,
Um,
can I make a comment here real quick on that? So you're the type of teacher that I would have killed to have had
oh
because
yeah, they love me. Like I've been out
it,
on family medical leave. The only people that actually email me, the kids.
right.
My
So
principal hasn't even emailed me to say congratulations on having a healthy baby.
Okay, well then fuck him. Sorry, but
But
that's
but
it.
no, that's what I'm
Like, I
saying.
mean,
Like I've
that,
gotten a couple of emails from like colleagues over the last 3 months at kind of, but no, like I really have like no administrator, no teacher,
yeah,
like other than if they needed something, nobody's emailed me or called me, but kids almost on a weekly basis have been like, hey, Miss, how you doing? I read this inspirational quote today, this, that, and the other, like, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? When are you coming back?
yeah, exactly. So I had
I'm like, as
one
soon as I
teacher.
find a babysitter that can help my wife with 3 kids, guys.
I had one teacher, very, very similar to you, actually, but one out of only one, honestly. And it was, I'm going to mention him right now. It was Coach John Howard. And he literally took me under his wing and said, okay, I know that this is hard for you. Like, I know that sitting in class and reading history lessons is not good. So I'm going to adjust how I teach you. Lobau Spark is proudly supported by Leo Guinan, Kirk Hofstrom, Casey Elliott, Sarah Delano, Justin Allingham, Blushing Crafter, Jamie Young, and Beth Jones. It is now also supported by 14 anonymous supporters. And I understand that completely. I know I can swear and all that kind of shit. If you want to support it and be anonymous, I get it. I get it. Whether you want to be mentioned by name or remain anonymous, this podcast does not exist without all of you. And I love you. You and I are just going to talk. And he read that like I was good with people instead of reading something in a damn book. Like I can't, for me, I just can't do it. I'm dyslexic as shit. Reading is so difficult.
Yeah,
And
man.
so
If you can't sit down with a book and get something out of it, it's almost worse for you.
oh,
I love
I
today's
gave
day and
up.
age
I gave up.
because there's more available.
Yeah.
Like I got blessed with the like it took me time and practice and the like fiction. Oh my god. I thought I couldn't read either. I
Right.
thought I hated reading, thought I couldn't read that well, and then I got to college and it was like, "Oh, read other things other than fiction." And I was like, "Oh, this is halfway interesting. Oh, wait, I'm actually good at reading."
Yeah.
So I have been blessed with the ability to read very well. Funny enough, a nobody taught me how to read adult wise. My first grade teacher looked at me and told me, your parents were supposed to teach you how to read. And then halfway through the school year, a little Filipino girl in our class, I don't, if that's not PC these days, you
Oh,
can edit
this is the most politically
it
incorrect
out.
show there is.
But it's funny. Like I always mentioned that she was Filipino because like I lived in Key West and lived in a very multicultural class. Were we in? No, I was in Texas at that point, Abilene, Texas, in an Air
Wow.
Force town, and a little girl in my class saw that I was having trouble reading and took me aside at recess for like a couple of weeks and helped me really learn how to read,
Good
and then
for
I took it
her.
from there. Yeah. And it's like that's the guy who teaches kids these days. Like the guy
Right.
who was sat in front of the TV and then a little girl in his class taught him how to read because his teacher was too busy for that.
Yeah,
Like
I'm just so
back in
tired of
the 80s
teachers.
when that was an okay excuse, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just so tired of teachers that look down on the kids, the neurodivergent kids, because they're a disruption or whatever. They don't have to be a disruption. Like it doesn't have to be like this.
No, you just
And
slow it down and you make it a little more interesting. Every
or
now and then
you
you throw in a real
connect.
conversation,
Right. You
you
connect
know?
with that person. You connect with them because I think, and let me know if you disagree or agree
Taught
with
a
this,
bunch of
but
kids with trouble reading
it,
US history and government, and they all loved it. And reading last year, like we trudged through it, but like
it's
they
so,
especially loved the grammar lessons because at least it was something they could get right or wrong. Interesting when you can make it like a game show, when you can slow it down enough that that kid that has trouble reading doesn't feel like they're 50 yards behind everybody. Like
it
like
opens up a new
there's
world.
ways to do it that don't break everybody's back and don't have to make it weird and wonder if you're accommodating for all the kids and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure I didn't do everything perfect up there while I was teaching those kids, but I know I got through to more of them. I know
because
that,
they email you now.
yeah,
They stay in touch with you, just like I stayed in touch with John Howard. And and it's still to this day. I mean, that was 30 years ago. And we talk every twice a week, probably. And it was because he literally just said, like, you're brilliant. You just can't showcase it in this environment. And, like, but he helped me because he cared about me. And that's like those personal conversations we had. I wanted to work hard for him because I trusted him and loved him as a person because he
yeah.
gave me a chance. That's what I think you're doing right now, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's one reason that if I get back into the classroom, I want to switch to high school because middle school has been fun, but they're and
It's,
if somehow one of my
it's
students ever sees this, please don't take this offensively.
right.
They're a little immature, and
It's middle
like
school.
there's
I mean,
just
that's
there's been kids I've had that kind of conversation with, but they're like 12 at this point. They,
yeah,
13. Like, I would love to have that same kind of conversation with a 16 or 17-year-old, a struggling
absolutely.
18-year-old that, I just need to look at and go, hey, the real world is way more cool. Take yourself a little more seriously, love yourself, and you'll get there.
At the end of your life, you're never going to remember the test that you failed, but you will remember the friends that you had at the party that you skipped the test for.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
like, I think about this and I'm going, absolutely. I can recall every single like emotional fun moment at a party with all my best friends that I still have to this day. You couldn't tell me what class I was taking or what I failed or whatever ever. I don't remember any of that shit because it didn't matter. It didn't matter. But it's
How do you forget that stuff that doesn't matter? I don't know
okay.
how to do
So okay,
that.
I have a trick. I have a trick for this.
But I completely agree with you
Yeah.
because I have a brother who is also he's never been formally diagnosed, but I would definitely say he's ADHD. He was
Right.
diagnosed ADHD as a kid, and then but never bipolar or anything like that as an adult.
Right.
And but he's been one of those people that turn it into a superpower to like get a good job, make himself money, all that kind of thing. And
Yeah. Wow.
like that's one of those ways that like I don't understand. I look at
Okay.
him just like, how'd you do that, man? Like how'd you work that sales job like that? How'd you make like six figures like that? Like how'd you crush it like that? And like it'll be like, how do you not like remember this, that, and the other? And I'll be like, but I remember what grandma and grandpa were doing, off to
Right.
the side while that thing you're talking about was going on, like what you're saying. Like, I remember all those emotional moments. I can sit
Yeah.
here. One day we were sitting there when we lived together years ago, I was telling him some stories, and like, I was just going into great detail about like times that were 3, 4, 5, 10 years before that, like parties and cool adventures I've been on
Yeah.
with friends, to the point that after like a couple hours, he just looks at me and goes, you need to put all this shit in a book, man. It would be a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you'd have to change all the names and maybe a few of those circumstances might get you arrested, but
That's it's
he's like,
amazing.
I don't know what the statute of limitations on some of the things you just told me is.
So I think the reason that he is so successful now is because he just blocked out all the shit that doesn't matter. So, for example,
Yeah.
for me, I've only had one job in my entire life, and that is,
Damn. I wish I
yeah.
knew what that was like.
So,
Finding a place that's comfortable enough for me to want to work there longer than 3 months is very difficult.
well, right. So, but it took a childhood experience of okay. So I'm a sports guy. I love college football, love it, and I was raised with we are cheering for this team. I woke up one morning in college and I was drunk and hungover, obviously, and
Like many of us, many
right,
times.
right. I'm like, what are you doing with your life, Lobal? Like, you're too smart to be wasting it away. So why don't you just walk up to the stadium and work there? And that's what I did. And then for 3 weeks, they said no. Finally, by the fourth week, they got so annoyed with me that they allowed me to volunteer and run cables and take out trash and all that stuff. Now I've worked there for 18 years. I have a staff of a decent amount of people, and I run the production for every single home event we have.
Cool.
And that to me is what the neurodivergent person does, is they latch on to something and they just won't let it go.
Oh
And if
God,
that
if they'd let me teach music production up at the
it,
school, like I would start pumping out the next great producer like
right,
every.
exactly. And they should give you that opportunity.
Yeah, that's when I
That
realized teaching up there. Like I
that
love history. Like I was a history major at one point. And I was so when they gave me this opportunity this year to actually teach sixth grade history and teach American history, I was like,
right.
holy cow, I get to teach my favorite subject to some kids that are just gonna be like, you know, vibing and lots of energy and stuff. And then the other subject was government, and I was like, and I really understand that. I actually understand how the electoral college works and things like that most people don't.
Interesting.
So
Maybe you can explain that to me.
but like honestly, while I was teaching that, I just looked at my wife one day a few months ago and I was like, I don't want to teach this anymore. I was like, I literally in my free time am a person who meditates and tells people not to dwell on the past and be in the now. I was like, and I'm teaching history. I'm
Right.
asking people, kids, questions about basically dwelling on the past when most of them in the room are African American, and we're talking about slavery. This is getting weird. I was like,
Yeah.
and I was like, and then in
Yeah.
government, I was like, the government classes are going really well. I was like, but they only understand it so much. I was like, so apparently I need to teach something a little more current and I need to teach something to older kids. And
Right.
that was when it first kind of dawned on me. And then I was like, if you let me, I'm a great cook. My wife wants me to start a podcast, like
Oh,
YouTube
hell
show
yeah.
about
Hell yeah.
just like cooking regular old food,
Love it. Love
because
it.
like I'm not a chef and I don't go all out, but like if I want a great salmon dish and some vegetables, like I can cook it up. And
Yep.
like I would, and I'm one of these days, I think I really will do it when I can afford some cameras and things like that and, do it right.
You
And,
don't
and
need
have
any
a,
of that shit. You don't need any of that shit. Like, just plug in your phone, hit record, and talk. Like, that's
yeah, but
basically
when you
what it
gotta have
is.
your hands free to cook, that makes it a little more complicated. You might need at least one camera and a
Okay.
stand or
All right.
something.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But like, I think it'd be really fun to do that. But like, I would love to teach high schoolers cooking and not like make an egg souffle. Like, no, we're gonna make green beans and a steak
Right.
because from some cheap steak from Winn Dixie, like because this is what you're gonna need to know how to do in a few years.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. What?
Like it's Valentine's Day, so today we're gonna learn how to make salmon and asparagus and lemon pepper chicken and sauteed broccoli. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna learn how to cook our significant other something nice instead of going out and spending $150 making some server's night annoying.
Oh, you would. Oh, you'd get along with my dad so well. He literally he cannot stand that. They've been married for 50 years, and he basically says, he goes, "This is a Hallmark holiday, son. Okay, why do I have to spend $3 on a damn card when I just bought your mom a car 3 weeks ago?" He's like, you don't need one day to tell someone you love them. If you love them every day.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like,
That's why
that's
my wife can't stand Valentine's Day. And that was one of
oh,
the
good for
one of
you.
those
Good for
original things
you.
that when she said it, I was like, yet another point on why you're awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
So
our first Valentine's Day together, we went to Deadpool.
I love it. I love it so much. So let me ask you another question. What do you think, like, how much does friendship play into mental health?
Oh my God. I would kill for some friends right now.
Okay. I kind
Like
of I kind
those
of
words are
noticed
bad to
that.
use, but
So,
I like I'm not gonna say I don't have friends.
right,
I have a couple beautiful longtime friends who live in other states. One of them is how I know to trust Guy.
right.
I met him like a year or so ago.
Yeah,
And like he told me to go check out where he works.
right,
And that's how I originally learned to trust him. And then
right.
after going there and having lots of cool conversations with him and knowing he was a cool dude and thinking maybe I should hang out with this dude sometime.
Yeah,
Uh, and one of those longtime friends came in for my wife's baby shower for this third baby back in December. And as she was leaving, she was like, "Oh, guy just got off work. I'm gonna go hang out with him." And I was like, "Okay, is that guy from over?" And she was like, "Oh yeah." And I was like, "Tell him what's up." And like, that's why when you told me about you and your podcast, I was like, you don't have to tell me I need to trust you, that it's legit.
Yeah.
Like, now that I know that you know her and that like you
Right.
two are cool
Right.
and we're cool, as long as you stay cool with me, dude, like
Yeah.
we never have to have that discussion again, was basically what I told him. Like, somebody I've known for so long that I trust every word they say, and they told me to trust every word you say, kind of thing.
Right.
And that's why when he talked about this, I was like, I'm stoked. If this guy is half of what you just said, like, I'm stoked to be a part of this.
Awesome.
But
So
no,
this,
here's the deal. So I have 3 kids. I'm
right.
a teacher.
Right.
Um and I hear over and over and over again. I've even heard this from, I will try to say these words without throwing up, my mother-in-law, in the last few months. It takes a village.
Right.
Where's the village?
Here.
Because my mother does not give a shit. She wants to buy cheap presents every now and then and show up every few months, and she
No.
can't even pick the kids up.
Wrong.
When my
Wrong.
grandparents, my grandfather died of a stroke 3 weeks after taking his dock out of the water at 80. My grandparents took care of us for 2 to 3 weeks every summer for 12 years.
Yeah.
Was she going to offer that to me? No, she can't. My
Okay.
stepfather hates me. My father told my
Why?
mom.
Why? Like,
My father told my wife on the phone last month. He tried to passively aggressively text her "Happy Valentine's Day," to which she called him and said, "Your husband, my husband needs a father, and my grandkids need a grandfather, and we could use some help. Where are you and your ex 30-year kindergarten special needs teacher wife at? We thought you guys were going to be good grandparents." And he said, "Well, we're not really interested. She doesn't really want me to do anything to help you guys." Yeah, yeah. My dad showed up in her special needs
so
kindergarten classroom for
frustrating.
over 10 years reading The Cat in the Hat on Dr. Seuss's birthday, and has never met his grandkids.
This is frustrating to
And
hear.
then her dad is a wonderful man. He is old and sick, but he has given us everything in our inheritance fund in the last few years to help us out with the kids.
Nice.
He literally gave us $7,000
Oh,
back a few
wow.
months ago so that we could cover expenses for me to be home. Scratch that name, but they took back
Yeah, I will.
$20,000 of my money from my bank account without an email and without warning while I was home on leave, because I went on leave and supposedly haven't worked enough hours. To that, of all the hours I've worked on the weekend and at night and crap like that. But
Interesting.
yeah, but
That's
yeah, so he has helped us out in the best way he can, but since he can't leave his porch and hasn't in 7 years, and like, he's good for a phone call, and if I could
yeah.
afford gas and my car was in decent enough shape to drive a few hours from here, I'd take the boys to see him
Right.
for his birthday. But like, and then her mother and stepfather are awful people who just sobered up 3 years ago from being drunks for several decades and want to act like they have anything to say to us about our life or where it's at. So that's the synopsis of our village.
Wow. Okay. Can I present to
Any
you?
aunts or uncles are just a mess. We have one of her aunts that's a sweetheart that, how is nice for a phone call every now and then. The rest of them are just as toxic as the rest. And then a few of the teachers up at the school have helped me out about as much as they can.
Right.
But that doesn't amount to much because they're all just as broke.
Yeah, exactly. So here's
And then that's what I say when you ask about friends, like,
yeah.
I never realized that I should have been kissing some people's ass to be my friends, I guess, the
No, no,
last
no, no,
few
no.
years, or
It's not
trying to live in the same, because we've moved a lot. Like, we
right.
lived in Pennsylvania when COVID hit, And then we came back down to Florida and found out we were pregnant. And then we decided we were going to teach in-home kids. And we looked around at different cities and found a lot of job prospects in Denver. And the first kid was born there, and we even the last few months of our one student we had all school year, actually he came to our house so that we could do the in-home teaching and take care of the kid all at the same time. It was pretty cool. But then Denver melted down on itself when the vaccine didn't work and we got out of there. And then we came back here and lived with family for a few months before moving back to Jacksonville when I got a job teaching.
Okay.
Uh, so,
Wow.
we moved
You've had a
around a
road.
lot.
You've had a journey.
And the family we moved at when we first moved back are not really the type of family I ever want my kids to be around ever again.
Okay. So let me interject here for 1 second.
Yeah.
I think you're phenomenal.
But yeah, that's the answer to your question about the friends thing is,
Yeah. So
man, I wish I had some, because if I could have somebody just like maybe watch my kids for 2 hours so that I could think about something else,
okay,
that would be amazing.
Okay, so let me interject again. But so the concept of this entire podcast and this entire thing is friendship. So you will receive an email shortly after this, every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Everyone that has been on this podcast is welcome to join a non-recorded Zoom call.
Cool.
And we just shoot the shit, interrupt each other as neurodivergents, and no one gives a fuck about anything. That has actually turned into, this past week, I had someone from England fly here, someone from Virginia, someone from Ohio, all fly to hang out in real life.
Cool.
And because my thing is, we don't give friendship enough credit, in my opinion, for being literally the closest thing we have to a cure for mental health. And I'm not a doctor. I'm shit. I don't even have a college degree, but I can tell you right now, when you have people around you that support you consistently, Jesus Christ, can that help? I mean, that literally, they accept you for your quirks, your, this and that and the other. They just do, because they like you as a person. And if you don't get to know the person as an individual, you can't fucking help them. And that's what, like, psychiatrists these days don't do. They don't take the opportunity to get to know the individual for who they are. They just want to go to the diagnosis. How about learn the person first, then we'll go on to the next step.
Yeah, for years, I told my wife that eventually I wanted to get a PsyD and be some form of a counselor.
Right.
And like I very much believe in psychedelic therapy as well.
Right.
And I want to, now that there's real programs for that, I want to be trained in that. Even if, like, I have a yoga teacher training. I don't really have a desire to teach a yoga class at this point, but man, I am so glad I did that program, because I understand yoga. I understand my own body,
Tremendous.
Like, like if I wake up in the morning with an ache and a pain and do some yoga, I know if I need a massage, if I need to go for a walk,
right, right.
Well, what's going on?
You know yourself. You know yourself.
So, like, even if all that did was help me have a deeper understanding of myself and the tools that I have available to me, like, then so be it. But if I could really help others with it at some point, it's like, once upon a time, I went to UNF for elementary education, and now I'm teaching sixth graders, and it's, actually helping me succeed in life. And it's also helped me succeed in just teaching myself a gambit of things.
I love that.
I love that. One of the first classes I took was the psychology of education. And just some of the things I learned in there have repeatedly taught me things that I know now.
Yeah, that's
so
tremendous.
It's all steps in the journey. But I told my wife for years, and I still, at some point, now that I have kids, I have no idea on the time frame of things. I used to be like, oh, I'm going to do this by that point, this by that point. And back when we were only going to have one kid, I could have still maybe told you that. But now that we have three, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this wave in this ocean the way it rolls.
Right. Yeah. There's no other option there. Like, you just got.
But what I used to tell her is, like, I don't I don't want people to bring me their broken kids. I don't want broken
Yeah.
people to show up in my office just going, I'm broken. I
Right.
want that person to show up and go, so I'm bipolar, I'm autistic, I'm this or that or the
Right.
other, or I'm neuro,
Divergent.
what's the term?
Neurodivergent.
No, what's the other one? Everybody else? Um,
Neurotypical.
Neurotypical.
Yeah.
Like even somebody showing up and being
The-
just like, I'm neurotypical, and for some reason I'm depressed as fuck. But
It's
just
the
I want them
honesty.
to know where they're at, and I
Yeah.
want them to know they want better and that they are capable of it, and that they,
Perfect.
like that's the type of counselor I want to be one day. Is like,
Yes, Jason. Fuck
it's like
yes.
I don't like the term life coach. Like,
I
but like that's the closest like concept that I could see to it. I could even see a life coach course being helpful,
right.
in that journey. But like that kind of thing, like taking people that are like, I'm autistic, how do I make something out of this? I would love to work with people
Oh,
that are
Jason,
25,
yes.
30 years old that are just like, I want to be the best person available in this life. Like, what's that
Thank
going to
you.
take? And they understand that it's a lifestyle. I try to argue with those things. It's like, no, I do this. Like I live, like the kids at school always used to give me a hard time because for breakfast I have these smoothies I make myself. I've done this every day since 2008, but it's mostly bananas, greens, and then like fruit and like usually like cacao powder and like natural like raw honey and different things to just give it the proteins and other nutrients it needs. And like, it's all I really need. Like, a good couple tall glasses of that, and that's all I need for most of the morning. And like the kids will look at it and be like, that looks gross, Mr. Fagan. I'm just like, yeah, but and I don't say this out loud, but in my
Right.
head, I'm like, and you're 12 and you're 25 pounds overweight, and I'm 40 and can do a headstand with an 8-pack. Just saying.
You got a fucking 8-pack. Fuck you. No, I'm kidding. But I'm working on the 4-pack with this. But so I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
And because you are one of the most fascinating people I've ever met.
Well,
And I
thank you.
and I
I've been
honestly
sitting
mean that.
inside with
I
my wife,
honestly
having
mean that.
lots of conversations with her and toddlers, and watching lots of 1970s Sesame Street. So, um, this has been a treat and a half to have
Awesome.
a
Awesome.
stimulating conversation with another adult about everything,
Everything. Everything.
life, universe, and anything.
Right. So the final question is, what are you most proud of in your life? Now, this cannot be a it cannot be your kids, it cannot be your wife. It has to be a characteristic within you that you are most proud of yourself for. And I think a lot of us never think about this. We never say, "Oh, I'm proud of my kids. I'm proud of my wife." Yes, that's all great, but when we struggle, it really helps to go to your own highlight reel sometimes and say, I did this way.
Success is the only option.
Right. So what
That, that's
characteristic are you
that
most
that is
proud
it.
of?
That's what I'm saying. That's the characteristic. I don't
Okay.
know
So
how to put that into one word
okay,
as a
okay, okay.
characteristic, but like
So basically
just you
success,
know,
you being successful.
but like I don't like that word successful because so many people tie that
Yeah.
into like career and
Well,
money
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, all
whatever
that
they think
bullshit.
it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like to me,
But
it's like it's resilience, like
there it is. There it is.
passion.
Okay, okay.
Like
Okay, both of
but
those.
there's like
Both of
if I
those.
was trying to put into words, there's like it would be more of a culmination of like 4 or 5 words, more that ikagi idea of like the whole chart that
Right.
coalesces into one thing,
Exactly. Would that
and
chart look like this? Speed, passion, attitude, reliability, knowledge.
I I don't
That's
really, I definitely wouldn't start it out with speed. I mean,
so for
reliability
ADHD
would be
people,
more,
that's what we know. Like that's
reliability and stability would be more where I want to start just about anything these days.
yeah,
Hope, love,
Yeah.
Those are definitely important.
So what's so
Um,
awesome about you saying this is that,
Pride in yourself that's healthy yet both humble,
right.
and then a faith that both you are the most important thing in your life and that there
Yeah.
is so many things greater than you.
Right.
you know
So
uh
but
this world is
I'm going,
beautiful
it is
and that you're loved every moment.
correct.
like
And that's what I'm desperately trying to accomplish on this podcast. But
like that's one of those things I need tattooed on my wrist for all the times that what I call a overwhelm, what I call an autistic overwhelm or autistic meltdown. I
right.
just need the world is beautiful and you are loved. So when I'm sitting there going, oh, what just happened in the last 10 minutes?
At the end of the day, I still need to know what characteristic within yourself, it's got to be a characteristic, are you most proud of? And I know that's a hard question, but I need to know.
The ability to feel.
Thank you. Yes. Fuck yes, Jason. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's so this has been more than a pleasure. You're a brilliant, exciting person. Like there's no one in the fucking world that wouldn't want to hang out with you. And if they don't, then fuck them. That's just my opinion. So you're welcome. Jason, I love you. You're a good guy.
Thank you, Lobo. I love you too.
Absolutely. See you soon.